Welcome back, my dear wizards and witches, to Hogwarts Sleep Stories. Tonight, I invite you on a journey through some of the most fascinating and enigmatic tales from the magical universe of Hogwarts. We will explore 5 extraordinary legends, each woven from the threads of magic and mystery, from the terrifying origins of the Dementors to the hidden secrets of the Marauder's map, from the eternal oaths of the Keeper of Keys to the tragic curse of the Black Family, and the enigmatic Room of Hidden Things, the chamber concealed within the Room of Requirement. Before we continue, dear listener, I invite you to leave a comment with where you're listening from and what time it currently is dark, so settle in comfortably. Relax and let yourself be carried by the magic of these stories toward a peaceful slumber. As we discover together the forgotten secrets of Hogwarts, let the magic begin. Chapter 1, Birth of the Shadows, the origin of the Dementors in times long past, long before Hogwarts became the safe haven we know today. The magical world was a much darker and more dangerous place. Wizards lived in hiding, always alert to persecution from the non-magical world, but also to threats they had created themselves through their experiments. Somewhere in a forgotten valley in northern Scotland, a group of dark wizards, led by a sorcerer named Abon the Recluse, conducted their forbidden practices. Evan was obsessed with a single idea: the extraction and preservation of human emotions. He believed that happiness, hope, and love could be bottled like potions, stored and consumed when needed. For years, Evan and his disciples experimented with souls and emotions. They built vessels of dark crystal and complex runic circles. But with each experiment, something changed within them. Their laughter became rarer, their gazes emptier. Human warmth slowly disappeared from their bodies. On a winter's night, when the moon was hidden and snow covered the valley like a shroud, Evan attempted the final ritual. He wanted to extract the pure essence of happiness from a human soul, from his own soul. His disciples formed the magical circle, chanting incantations in forgotten tongues. What happened that night, no one knows for certain. It is said that the ritual succeeded too well. Evan extracted the happiness from his soul, but with it went everything that made him human: compassion, warmth, the very spark of life itself. What remained was no longer Evan. It was something else entirely, a creature of cold and despair, a being that fed on the joy of others because it possessed none of its own. The ritual had created the first Dementor, but Evan was not alone in that circle. His disciples, bound by the same dark magic, underwent the same terrible transformation. One by one, they became shadows of their former selves. Wraith-like beings cloaked in tattered robes, their faces hidden beneath hoods because there were no longer faces to see, only the rotting, corpse-like visages of what they had become. The Dementors, as they would come to be known, spread from that cursed valley like a plague. They drifted across the Scottish Highlands, drawn instinctively to places where humans gathered, feeding on happiness and hope, leaving behind only despair and emptiness. The magical community, already struggling with its own survival, now faced a new and terrifying threat. Dementors could not be killed by conventional magic. They were already beyond death, existing in a state between life and the grave. Spells bounced off them harmlessly. Curses had no effect. And even the most powerful wizards found themselves helpless against these creatures of pure despair. It was during this dark period that the first discoveries were made about how to combat the Dementors. A witch named Althea Moonwhisper, known for her studies of positive magic and healing spells, observed that Dementors recoiled from certain emotions, specifically the purest forms of joy and happy memories. Althea theorized that if dark emotions could be weaponized, as Eben had done, then perhaps positive emotions could serve as a defense. She spent years perfecting a spell that would become known as the Patronus Charm, a piece of magic so complex and demanding that only the most skilled wizards could master it. The Patronus Charm worked by channeling a wizard's happiest memory, their most powerful feeling of joy, and manifesting it as a physical form of pure light. This light, Althea discovered, was anathema to Dementors. It repelled them, drove them back, represented everything they had lost and could never regain. But even with this defense, the Dementors remained a constant threat. They could not be destroyed, only driven away temporarily. The Ministry of Magic, in its early formation, struggled with what to do about these creatures. They were too dangerous to ignore, yet impossible to eliminate. Eventually, a controversial solution was reached. The Dementors were offered a bargain. They would be given a place where they could feed, under controlled circumstances, in exchange for serving as guards. Thus was born the alliance between the Ministry and the Dementors, an alliance that would see these creatures stationed at Azkaban, the wizard prison, where they would feed on the despair of criminals. It was a dark compromise, one that many wizards opposed, but fear and desperation drove the decision. The Dementors were given their prison, and there they remained for centuries, silent sentinels of suffering, feeding on the misery of those locked away from the world. Yet the origin of these terrible creatures, born from one wizard's twisted experiments with emotion, was gradually forgotten. They became simply a fact of magical life, feared and avoided, their true nature and beginning lost to time. Only in the oldest texts, in the most restricted sections of magical libraries, could one still find references to Eben the Recluse and his final, terrible ritual. A warning from the past about the dangers of trying to separate emotion from humanity, about what happens when we try to bottle and control the very essence of what makes us alive. As the night deepens and the first tale draws to a close, let us remember that even in the darkest magic, there lies a lesson. The Dementors, born from the absence of joy, remind us of the precious nature of happiness, hope, and love, emotions that must be cherished and protected, never taken for granted. But our journey through magical history continues. Next, we turn to a tale of friendship, mischief, and the most remarkable map ever created. Chapter 2, The Map of Mischief, Secrets of the Marauders. The halls of Hogwarts have witnessed countless generations of students, but few left a mark quite as lasting as four particular wizards who attended the school in the 1970s. James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, known to themselves and eventually to legend as the Marauders, created something that would become one of the most extraordinary magical objects ever to exist. Within the castle walls, it began, as many great adventures do, with a problem. Remus Lupin carried a secret that set him apart from his fellow students. Once a month, under the full moon, he transformed into a werewolf. In an era when prejudice against werewolves ran deep, This secret could have isolated Remus completely, but he had found true friends in James, Sirius, and Peter. Rather than abandon their friend, the three decided to become animagi, wizards who could transform into animals at will. It was magic far beyond what students their age should have been attempting, dangerous and illegal to practice without ministry approval. Yet their loyalty to Remus drove them forward. For 3 years, they studied in secret. James, Sirius, and Peter pored over ancient texts hidden in the restricted section, practiced transformation spells in abandoned classrooms, and endured the painful process of keeping a mandrake leaf in their mouths for an entire month. Their determination never wavered. Finally, their efforts succeeded. James became a magnificent stag, which earned him the nickname Prongs. Sirius transformed into a large black dog, becoming Padfoot. Peter, though less impressive, managed to become a rat, taking the name Wormtail. And Remus, in honor of his lupine nature, was called Moony as Animagi, James, Sirius. And Peter could accompany Remus during his transformations, keeping him company and preventing him from harming himself or others. Together, the four friends roamed the grounds of Hogwarts and the surrounding lands, discovering every secret passage, every hidden corridor, every concealed room the castle had to offer. It was during these nighttime adventures that the idea was born. Sirius, always the instigator, suggested they should document their discoveries. But James, with his flair for the dramatic, proposed something far more ambitious. They would create a complete map of Hogwarts, showing not just rooms and passages, but the location of every person within the castle. The magic required for such an enchantment was extraordinarily complex. They needed to combine location spells, tracking charms, and concealment magic into a single, cohesive whole. The map would need to update in real time, showing the movement of hundreds of people simultaneously. More than that, it would need to be protected from discovery, revealing itself only to those who knew the secret. For months, the Marauders worked on their masterpiece. Remus, the most studious of the group, researched the necessary spells and their proper combinations. James, brilliant and creative, developed the enchantments that would make the map update constantly. Sirius contributed the protective magic that would keep their creation safe from prying eyes. Even Peter played his part, helping to test and refine the map's many features. They began with a blank piece of parchment, ordinary to all appearances. Upon this parchment, they layered spell after spell, charm after charm. They enchanted it to recognize the castle's very bones, to sense the presence of magic and life within its walls. They tied it to Hogwarts itself, making it an extension of the castle's ancient magic. The map learned to distinguish between different types of beings: students, teachers, ghosts, even Peeves the poltergeist appeared upon its surface. Secret passages were marked with thin lines, rooms labeled in tiny script. The Whomping Willow, planted to guard the secret entrance to the Shrieking Shack where Remus transformed, was carefully noted. But the Marauders didn't stop with simple functionality. They infused the map with their own personalities, their sense of humor and mischief. The map would insult anyone who tried to access it without knowing the proper password. It would offer sarcastic commentary to those it deemed unworthy. It became, in essence, a magical reflection of its creators. To activate the map, one had to tap it with a wand and say, "I solemnly swear that I am up to no good." The words were a perfect encapsulation of the Marauder's spirit, a solemn oath made in the name of mischief. When the map was finished being used, the phrase "mischief managed" would clear it, returning it to blank parchment. The Marauder's map became the Marauder's most treasured possession and their greatest tool for mayhem. With it, they could see where teachers were patrolling, allowing them to avoid detection during their nighttime wanderings. They could track the movements of other students, knowing where everyone was at any given moment. The map made them masters of the castle in a way no students had been before. But the map was more than just a tool for pranks and rule breaking. It represented the bond between four friends, a testament to their creativity, skill, and loyalty to one another. Every secret passage they had discovered together, every hidden room they had explored, every adventure they had shared, all of it was captured within the map's enchanted lines. Years later, after the Marauders had graduated and gone their separate ways, the map would find its way into other hands. Confiscated by Argus Filch, it would sit in his office for years before being stolen by the Weasley twins, Fred and George, who would put it to excellent use in their own campaigns of mischief. Eventually, the map would come to Harry Potter, James's son, passed on by Fred and George in a gesture of generosity and recognition of a kindred spirit. Through the map, Harry would come to know his father and his father's friends in a way he never could have otherwise. He would use it to navigate the castle, to evade enemies, and ultimately to aid in the fight against darkness. The Marauder's map stands as one of the most sophisticated pieces of magic ever created by students at Hogwarts. It represents not just technical skill, but creativity, friendship, and the spirit of adventure that defines the best of Wizardkind. Though the Marauders themselves would face tragedy in the years to come, betrayal, loss, and death, their map endures. A lasting tribute to four friends who once roamed the halls of Hogwarts together, young and full of life, seeking adventure in every shadow dot. As we reflect on this tale of friendship and magical ingenuity, we prepare to journey into another story, one of loyalty that spans generations. Chapter 3, The Keeper's Oath. Rubus Hagrid's eternal promise. There are some souls whose loyalty runs so deep, it becomes the very essence of their being. Rubeus Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, is one such soul. But the story of how Hagrid came to hold his position and the oath that binds him to the castle is one few truly know. Hagrid's early years at Hogwarts were marked by joy and tragedy in equal measure. As a half-giant, he faced prejudice from some, but he found acceptance and wonder in the magical world. He loved every creature, every stone, every inch of the Hogwarts grounds. The castle became his true home in a way few others could understand. But in his third year, disaster struck. The Chamber of Secrets was opened, and a student, Myrtle Warren, was killed. In the climate of fear that followed, someone had to be blamed. Tom Riddle, a prefect respected by teachers and feared by students who knew him better, pointed the finger at Hagrid and his pet Acromantula. A-R-A-G-O-G. It was a lie, of course. Riddle himself had opened the chamber and unleashed the basilisk within. But Aragog, though innocent of murder, was indeed a dangerous creature, and Hagrid had been keeping him secretly in the castle. The evidence, circumstantial though it was, seemed damning. Hagrid was expelled from Hogwarts. His wand was snapped in half, His magical education ended abruptly. For a 13-year-old wizard who loved magic and learning above all else, it was devastating. Hagrid should have been sent away, forced to find his place in a world that already feared and mistrusted half-giants. But Albus Dumbledore, then the Transfiguration Professor, saw what others did not. He saw Hagrid's innocence, his gentle heart, and his deep love for Hogwarts. Dumbledore had his suspicions about Tom Riddle, even then, though he could not prove them. He knew that sending Hagrid away would be a grave injustice. Dumbledore approached Headmaster Armando Dippet with a proposal. Though Hagrid could no longer continue as a student, he could remain at Hogwarts in another capacity. The school needed a groundskeeper, someone to maintain the extensive lands, care for the creatures in the Forbidden Forest, and handle the physical tasks that kept the castle running. Why not Hagrid? Dippet was hesitant. Hagrid was only 13, barely more than a child. But Dumbledore was persuasive, and there was something in the boy's tearful gratitude when told he could stay that moved even the stern headmaster. A trial period was agreed upon. On a misty morning in late spring, Hagrid stood before Dumbledore and Dippet in the headmaster's office. He had been asked to make a formal oath, a magical binding that would secure his position, but also tie him to Hogwarts in a profound way. Dumbledore explained the terms carefully. Hagrid would swear to protect Hogwarts and its students, to guard its secrets, to maintain its grounds, and to serve the school faithfully for as long as he was able. In return, Hogwarts would become his permanent home, and he would never be forced to leave. With trembling hands, Hagrid placed his right hand over his heart and his left hand on the ancient oak desk that had served countless headmasters. Dumbledore guided him through the words of the oath, speaking in an ancient form of magic that predated modern spellcasting. I, Rubius Hagrid, do solemnly swear to serve as Keeper of Keys and grounds of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I pledge to protect this castle and all within its walls, to guard its secrets, to maintain its lands, and to care for the creatures great and small that call it home. I bind myself to Hogwarts from this day forward, in loyalty unbreakable and service eternal. By magic and by word, I so swear. As Hagrid spoke the final words, a golden light emanated from his hands, spreading across his chest and then fading into his skin. The oath was sealed, bound into his very being by ancient magic. From that moment forward, Hagrid was tied to Hogwarts in a way that went beyond mere employment. It was a magical bond, unbreakable and eternal dot. The effects of the oath were subtle but profound. Hagrid found that he could sense things about the castle and grounds that others couldn't. He knew instinctively when something was wrong, when an area needed attention, when a creature was in distress. The Forbidden Forest, dangerous and wild to others, became to him a place he could navigate with ease, as if the forest itself recognized him as its guardian. More than that, Hagrid felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. The loneliness and rejection he had felt after his expulsion faded away, replaced by a deep certainty that he was exactly where he was meant to be. Hogwarts wasn't just his workplace or his home. It was part of him, and he was part of it. Over the decades that followed, Hagrid proved the wisdom of Dumbledore's faith in him time and again. He became an institution at Hogwarts, as much a part of the castle as the stones themselves. Students came and went, teachers retired and were replaced, but Hagrid remained constant. He kept the grounds immaculate, tending to every plant and tree with loving care. He maintained the pathways, repaired fences, and ensured that the extensive Hogwarts estate remained as beautiful as it had been for centuries. His small hut at the edge of the forest became a place of refuge for students who needed a kind word and a cup of tea. But beyond his official duties, Hagrid fulfilled the deeper promise of his oath in countless ways. He rescued students who wandered too far into the forest, standing between them and danger without hesitation. He protected Hogwarts' secrets, never revealing the hidden passages he discovered or the confidential information he was privy to as Keeper of Keys. When Dumbledore became headmaster, Hagrid's role expanded. He became not just groundskeeper, but also Keeper of Keys, the one who held the keys to every door, every gate, every locked room in the castle. It was a position of immense trust, and Hagrid never once betrayed it. Perhaps the most remarkable demonstration of Hagrid's oath came on a stormy Halloween night in 1981. Dumbledore sent him on a mission of utmost importance to retrieve young Harry Potter from the ruins of his parents' home in Godric's Hollow. Hagrid flew Sirius Black's motorcycle through the night sky, cradling a baby who had just become an orphan. Bringing him safely to Privet Drive, that it was a task that required not just physical strength, but emotional fortitude. Hagrid, who had known and loved James and Lily Potter, had to look upon their destruction while caring for their infant son. His loyalty to Dumbledore and his oath to protect those connected to Hogwarts gave him the strength to complete this heartbreaking duty. Years later, it would be Hagrid who brought Harry back to the wizarding world on his 11th birthday, traveling to that dismal hut on the rock in the sea to deliver his Hogwarts letter personally. In doing so, Hagrid gave Harry the same gift Dumbledore had given him decades earlier, the chance to find a home at Hogwarts. The oath Hagrid swore as a 13-year-old boy shaped the entire course of his life. It gave him purpose, belonging, and a family in the students and staff of Hogwarts. In return, Hagrid gave Hogwarts something irreplaceable: absolute loyalty, tireless service, and a gentle giant's loving heart. As the years turned into decades, Hagrid's bond with Hogwarts only deepened. The castle itself seemed to respond to him, doorways opening more easily at his touch, the grounds blooming more beautifully under his care. He became as much a part of Hogwarts as the moving staircases or the enchanted ceiling of the Great Hall. Some whispered that Hagrid's oath had made him ageless, that he would remain at Hogwarts forever, an eternal guardian. Others said that when Hagrid finally passed, his spirit would join the ghosts that walked the halls, unable and unwilling to ever truly leave. Whether these rumors were true or not, one thing was certain: Rubeus Hagrid's loyalty to Hogwarts was absolute and eternal. His oath, sworn in a moment of desperate gratitude, had become the defining feature of his life. He was, and would always be, keeper of keys and grounds, guardian and friend, a gentle soul bound by magic and love to the place he called home. As we contemplate this tale of loyalty and belonging, we turn now to a darker story, one of ancient curses and family tragedy. Chapter 4. The Tapestry of Darkness, the curse of the Black family in the heart of London. At number 12, Grimold Place, stands a house that few can see, protected by ancient magic and hidden from Muggle eyes. It served for centuries as the ancestral home of the noble and most ancient House of Black. Within its walls hangs a tapestry, a family tree woven with gold thread on black silk, documenting the bloodline of one of Wizarding Britain's oldest pure-blood families. But this tapestry tells more than just a story of births and marriages. Burned into its fabric are the marks of a terrible curse, one that has plagued the Black family for generations. The curse began with Aralessa Black, a powerful witch who lived in the 17th century. Aralessa was obsessed with blood purity, convinced that mixing magical blood with Muggle blood would dilute the power of Wizardkind. She created a curse designed to punish any Black who betrayed the family's pure blood principles, using dark magic forbidden even in her time. Aralessa wove an enchantment into the very bloodline of the Black family. Any Black who married a Muggle-born or blood traitor, who associated too closely with Muggles, or who rejected the family's pure blood ideology would be struck from the family tapestry, literally burned away. Their name removed as if they had never existed. But the curse went deeper than mere symbolism. Those who were burned from the tapestry would find themselves afflicted with misfortune. Some would die young, others would find their magic weakening, still others would face tragedy in various forms. The curse ensured that rejecting the Black family's values came with a terrible price. For centuries, the curse worked as Aralessa had intended. The Black family remained staunchly pure blood, marrying within a small circle of similarly minded families. Blacks married Lestranges, Malfoys, Rosiers, and occasionally other Blacks, cousins marrying cousins to keep the blood pure. Those who dared to love outside these narrow boundaries were cast out, their names literally burned from the family record. The tapestry in Grimold Place bore the marks of this ruthless purging. Iola Black burned away for marrying a Muggle-born wizard in 1750. Marius Black, removed for his support of Muggle rights in 1820. Cedrella Black, struck from the record for marrying Septimus Weasley. And most recently, Andromeda Black, burned away for marrying Ted Tonks, a Muggle-born. But the curse had unintended consequences. In keeping the bloodline pure, the Blacks had also concentrated the dark magic within their family. Madness ran through the Black line like a poison. Instability, cruelty, and an obsession with power marked many of its members. The very purity they sought to preserve had become their undoing. Sirius Black, born into this cursed family in 1959, was the first Black in generations to openly rebel against everything the family stood for. From his earliest years at Hogwarts, Sirius rejected the pure-blood supremacy his family preached. He was sorted into Gryffindor rather than Slytherin, befriended a half-blood werewolf and a Muggle-born witch, and made it clear that he despised everything his family represented. His mother, Walburga Black, never forgave him. She had raised Sirius to be the perfect pure-blood heir, to carry on the Black family traditions and uphold their prejudiced values. His rebellion was, to her, the ultimate betrayal. When Sirius ran away from home at 16, choosing to live with the Potters rather than remain at Grimold Place, Walburga performed the ritual herself. In a fury of dark magic and bitter hatred, she burned Sirius's name from the family tapestry. The golden thread that had spelled out his name blackened and vanished, leaving only a smoking hole where the heir to the House of Black had once been. The curse, activated by this burning, should have brought misfortune upon Sirius. Perhaps it did. His life was marked by tragedy. His best friend betrayed and murdered. His godson orphaned. Sirius himself framed for murders he didn't commit and imprisoned in Azkaban for 12 years. Whether this was the curse or simply cruel fate, none could say for certain. But Sirius was not the only Black to suffer. His younger brother, Regulus, remained loyal to the family at first, taking the Dark Mark and serving Voldemort. But when he discovered the truth about Voldemort's Horcruxes, Regulus turned against the Dark Lord. In an act of courage that would have made Sirius proud, Regulus attempted to destroy one of the Horcruxes, sacrificing his life in the process. Regulus's name remained on the tapestry. He had never been officially cast out. But his fate was no kinder than Sirius's. The curse of the Black family, it seemed, spared no one. Loyalty to the family's dark values or rebellion against them. The end result was often the same: tragedy and early death. The last generation of Blacks saw the curse's effects reach their terrible culmination. Bellatrix Lestrange, Sirius's cousin, embraced the family's darkest traditions with zealous fervor. She became one of Voldemort's most devoted followers, a murderess who reveled in cruelty. Yet her loyalty to blood purity brought her no happiness. She died without children, the Lestrange line ending with her. Andromeda Tonks, burned from the tapestry for marrying a Muggle-born, built a life of happiness and love with her family. Yet the curse found her too. Her husband Ted was murdered by Snatchers during the Second Wizarding War, and her daughter Nymphadora died in the Battle of Hogwarts, leaving Andromeda to raise an orphaned grandson. History repeating its cruel cycle. Narcissa Malfoy, who remained in the family's good graces through her marriage to Lucius, seemed to escape the curse's worst effects. But she lived in fear throughout the war, watching her husband imprisoned and her son forced to serve Voldemort. In the end, her love for her son led her to betray the Dark Lord, lying to him about Harry Potter's death. A quiet rebellion that helped end the war, but also marked the final breaking of the Black family's allegiance to dark magic. By the end of the Second Wizarding War, the House of Black was effectively extinct. Sirius died in the Department of Mysteries, struck down by his own cousin. No legitimate Black heirs remained to carry on the name. The tapestry at Grimmauld Place, once a proud record of centuries of pure-blood heritage, had become a monument to the family's destruction. Some believe that Arales's curse finally exhausted itself, consuming the very bloodline it was meant to protect. Others say the curse is still active, waiting for any who might claim the Black name to fall under its shadow once more. The house at Grimmauld Place, inherited by Harry Potter through Sirius's will, stands as a memorial to a family destroyed by its own prejudice and the curse that enforced it. The tapestry remains on the wall, a haunting reminder that sometimes the traditions we cling to most fiercely are the ones that ultimately destroy us. The curse of the Black family serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of blood purity ideology, of isolating oneself from the wider world, of choosing ancient prejudices over love and compassion. The Blacks sought to preserve their bloodline through dark magic and strict rules, but in the end, those very choices led to their extinction. As we close the book on this dark chapter of wizarding history, we turn to one final tale, one of accumulation and hidden treasures. Chapter 5, The Room of Lost Things. secrets within the Room of Requirement. Among the many mysteries housed within Hogwarts Castle, few are as enigmatic as the Room of Requirement. This chamber, which appears only to those in desperate need, has been discovered and rediscovered by generations of students, each finding it transformed to meet their specific requirements. But there is one manifestation of the room that holds particular fascination: the Room of Hidden Things, where centuries of lost, abandoned, and concealed objects have accumulated into a vast labyrinth of magical artifacts. The Room of Hidden Things is the Room of Requirement's manifestation when someone needs to hide something. Over the centuries, countless witches and wizards have entered the room for precisely this purpose, concealing objects they wish to keep secret, to protect, or to dispose of, but couldn't bring themselves to destroy. Each hidden item remains preserved by the room's magic, creating an ever-growing collection of wizarding history's discarded treasures and darkest secrets. The origins of this particular manifestation date back to the castle's earliest days. Even the founders, despite their best efforts to catalog every room and passage in Hogwarts, never fully understood the Room of Requirement. They knew it existed. The house elves had told them of a room that changed to meet needs, but they could never reliably access it or control it. It was Rowena Ravenclaw who first theorized that the room might serve as a repository. In her wisdom, she realized that a room responding to need might accumulate objects from those who needed to hide things. She attempted to access this version of the room several times, hoping to study what had been left there, but the room's magic proved too complex even for her brilliant mind. One could not enter the Room of Hidden Things out of mere curiosity. Only genuine need would open its doors. The first recorded successful entry into the Room of Hidden Things occurred in the 13th century. A young wizard named Edmund Krakenthorpe had accidentally created a cursed amulet during an experimental transfiguration lesson. The amulet caused anyone who wore it to speak only in rhymes, amusing at first, but the curse wouldn't wear off and was resistant to counterspells. Desperate to hide his mistake before a teacher discovered it, Edmund paced before the 7th floor corridor, thinking intensely about his need for a place to conceal the amulet where it would never be found. The room appeared, and when Edmund entered, he found himself in a vast space filled with towering stacks of objects. There were damaged books, broken furniture, tarnished jewelry, cracked cauldrons, and countless other items. Stunned, Edmund realized he had stumbled upon a treasury of hidden things, objects concealed by students and teachers over the centuries. He buried his cursed amulet deep within a pile of discarded broomsticks and quickly left. But word of his discovery spread among his fellow students. Soon, others were attempting to access the Room of Hidden Things, seeking either to hide their own mistakes or to explore what previous generations had left behind. But the room's magic was selective and capricious. It would only appear to those with genuine need to hide something, or occasionally, to those who needed to retrieve something specific they themselves had hidden. Casual exploration was impossible. The room would simply not appear. Over the centuries, the collection within the Room of Hidden Things grew to staggering proportions. Students hid evidence of failed experiments, forbidden items confiscated by prefects, love letters they couldn't bear to destroy, and objects connected to embarrassing memories. Teachers occasionally used it too, concealing cursed artifacts too, dangerous to destroy, but too potentially useful to dispose of entirely. Some of the items in the room were mundane: thousands of broken quills, ink bottles, torn robes, and damaged spell books. But among the ordinary debris lay objects of incredible power and historical significance. There were cursed items from every century of Hogwarts' existence, experimental potions that had gone wrong, prototype magical inventions that had never quite worked, and personal treasures belonging to students long dead. In one corner stood a massive wardrobe that had belonged to Helga Hufflepuff herself, too damaged to repair, but too historically important to destroy. Near it lay the remains of what might have been an early attempt at creating a time turner, its mechanisms frozen and its magic exhausted. There were weapons, cursed blades, enchanted arrows, even what appeared to be a medieval wizard's armor, piled haphazardly among furniture and boxes. The room had also become a graveyard for dark artifacts. Throughout history, students and teachers who encountered cursed objects often chose to hide them in the room rather than report them to authorities. This decision, while sometimes made with good intentions, had resulted in the accumulation of genuinely dangerous items. Cursed jewelry that could possess the wearer, books that screamed when opened, mirrors that showed terrible visions. All of these and more lay hidden within the room's expansive space. One of the most significant deposits in the room came from Tom Riddle, who would later become Lord Voldemort. As a student, Riddle had been fascinated by the Room of Requirement, discovering its secrets through careful observation and manipulation. He accessed the Room of Hidden Things when he needed a place to conceal something of terrible importance: a Horcrux, the diadem of Rowena, Ravenclaw, stolen by her daughter Helena centuries before, and eventually found by Riddle, was transformed into a vessel for a piece of his soul. Riddle, knowing the diadem's history and its power, also knowing it was being sought by those who remembered its existence, needed a hiding place so secure that no one would ever find it. The Room of Requirement, specifically its manifestation as the Room of Hidden Things, was perfect. When Riddle entered to hide the diadem, he was struck by the sheer vastness of the collection. Even for someone of his considerable magical knowledge, the sight was impressive. He placed the diadem atop a stone bust of an old wizard, marked the location with a tattered wig and an old discolored tiara, and left, confident that among the thousands upon thousands of objects, his Horcrux would remain undiscovered forever. He was almost right. The diadem remained hidden for decades, surviving even after Voldemort's first defeat. It sat untouched, radiating dark magic imperceptibly, just one cursed object among many in the room's vast collection. The Room of Hidden Things also became a place of legend among Hogwarts students. Tales were passed down through generations about the treasures supposedly hidden there. Some spoke of a complete set of spellbooks written by the founders themselves. Others whispered about a mirror that could show the future, hidden away because its prophecies drove viewers mad. There were stories of a phoenix feather wand, more powerful than any other, abandoned by a student who feared its strength. Most of these tales were exaggerations or complete fabrications, but they served to enhance the room's mystique. The few students who actually managed to access the Room of Hidden Things found it overwhelming, the sheer quantity of objects made, finding anything specific nearly impossible. The room seemed to rearrange itself, its contents shifting in ways that defied normal spatial laws. One could walk for what felt like miles through towering stacks of debris, never seeing the same configuration twice. The true nature of the Room of Hidden Things revealed itself during the Second Wizarding War, when Draco Malfoy needed to bring Death Eaters into Hogwarts. He used a vanishing cabinet hidden in the room, its pair located in Borgin and Burke's. The cabinet had been broken years earlier by nearly headless Nick, who had caused Peeves to drop it over Graham Montague's head. It had been hidden in the Room of Hidden Things, forgotten, until Malfoy desperately needed it. Malfoy spent months in the room, repairing the cabinet, and in doing so, became intimately familiar with its strange geography. He walked among centuries of discarded magical objects, witnessed the accumulated debris of Hogwarts history, and perhaps came to understand something about the nature of secrets and the things we try to hide. Later, during the Battle of Hogwarts, the Room of Hidden Things became a battleground. Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger entered searching for the diadem Horcrux, having finally deduced its location. They were confronted by Draco Malfoy, Gregory Goyle, and Vincent Crabbe, who had been ordered to capture Harry. What followed was catastrophic. Crabbe, in his hatred and eagerness to kill, cast Fun Fire, a cursed fire that consumes everything in its path and is nearly impossible to control. The flames, taking the form of enormous serpents and chimeras, swept through the Room of Hidden Things, destroying centuries of accumulated objects in minutes. The fire consumed everything in its path: the broken furniture, the magical artifacts, the cursed objects that had lain hidden for generations. The diadem, finally found by Harry, was destroyed not by his hand, but by the Fun Fire, its Horcrux obliterated along with countless other pieces of magical history. The Room of Hidden Things, in that moment, became the Room of Destroying Things. As the fire raged, the room's magic seemed to struggle against the destruction. The walls appeared and disappeared, staircases formed and collapsed, the very structure of the space becoming unstable as the ancient magic tried to contain the cursed flames dot in the end. Only a few people escaped with their lives. Crabbe, who had cast the Fun Fire, was consumed by his own curse, unable. As our journey through these 5 tailies comes to a close, dear listener, we find ourselves back where we began, in the quiet darkness ready for rest. The stories of Hogwarts are endless, stretching back through centuries and forward into a future yet unwritten. We have walked through darkness and light, through tragedy and triumph. We have seen the birth of creatures of despair and the creation of objects of wonder. We have witnessed oaths that bind and curses that destroy. We have explored rooms that appear and disappear, hiding secrets and revealing truths. Each of these tailies carries within it a lesson about the nature of magic and the nature of humanity. The Dementors remind us of what we lose when we separate ourselves from joy and hope. The Marauder's map shows us the power of friendship and creativity. Hagrid's oath demonstrates that true loyalty is chosen, not forced. The curse of the Black family reveals the danger of tradition divorced from compassion. And the Room of Hidden Things teaches us that some secrets must eventually be faced. But now, as the final story fades and the night deepens, it is time to let these tailies drift into dreams. Let the magic of Hogwarts surround you like a warm blanket. Let the knowledge that somewhere, in a castle hidden from Muggle eyes, generations of young witches and wizards continue to learn and grow, make mistakes and triumphs. form friendships that will last lifetimes. Close your eyes and imagine yourself walking the corridors of Hogwarts. Feel the ancient stone beneath your feet. Hear the portraits whispering on the walls. Smell the old parchment and candle wax that perfumes the air. You are safe here, protected by magic older than memory, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom and wonder of centuries. As you drift towards sleep, know that these stories will be here when you wake. The magic of Hogwarts never truly ends. It continues in every telling, in every dreaming, in every heart that finds wonder in tales of a world where magic is real and anything is possible. Sleep well, dear wizard. Sleep well, dear witch. May your dreams be filled with magic, your rest be peaceful, and your tomorrow be bright. Until we meet again in these halls of magic and wonder. This is Hogwarts Sleep Stories, wishing you the sweetest of dreams, mischief managed, and good night.